My name is Jake, a 35-year-old financial analyst who spent most of his life cleaning up messes, mostly my younger brother Derek's. I'm the guy who pays his bills on time, saves for the future, and somehow still gets stuck footing the tab for family dinners because that's just how it is. I've got a sharp mind for numbers, a short fuse for bullshit, and a fiancée, Rachel, who keeps me grounded with her quick wit and zero tolerance for nonsense. Growing up, I learned early that being the responsible one in a family like mine comes with a price. You're everyone's punching bag until you're not. This story isn't about the quiet guy who takes it all in stride. It's about the moment I stopped playing nice and turned a family cruise into a battlefield. It starts with the second I saw Derek's smug face go white as ship security hauled him away. And trust me, that's just the beginning. It was day 3 of this damn cruise, a week-long trip through the Caribbean my mom had pitched as family bonding. I'd hesitated, knowing a floating hotel with Derek was a recipe for disaster, but Rachel convinced me it could be fun. Big mistake. We'd barely set sail when Derek started his usual routine, mooching. No cash for drinks, no credit card in his suitcase, no money in his onboard account. By the time I sat down for my first beer, he was already sliding into the seat next to me, that wide grin plastered on his face like he'd just won the lottery. "Hey bro, cover me this round," he said, waving a hand like it was no big deal. I sighed, feeling the familiar weight of annoyance settle in my chest. "Seriously? You didn't bring any money?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Come on, you know I'll pay you back," he lied, and I let it slide because it was just a couple of drinks. But then it was dinner, then casino chips, then excursions. Every time with that same "I'll Venmo you later" bullshit he never followed through on. My parents, Linda and Carl, just shrugged it off. "Help your brother out," Mom said over her cocktail, her voice dripping with that guilt-trip tone she'd perfected over the years. "You make more money anyway." That line, it always got me. The assumption that because I'd worked my ass off, I owed Derek a free ride while he blew every dime on dumb shit like overpriced sneakers and bar tabs. By the 3rd day, I was done. No more handouts, no more playing the bigger person. That night, I finally got a break from the chaos. Rachel and I slipped away to a fancy restaurant on the ship, just the two of us. The dim lighting, the soft clink of glasses. It felt like the first time I could breathe since we'd boarded. We laughed over some stupid story about her coworker, and for a moment, I forgot about Derek entirely. Then the waiter brought the bill. I reached for my wallet, flipped it open, and froze. My credit card was gone. My stomach dropped like I'd just stepped off a ledge. "Jake, what's wrong?" Rachel asked, her brow furrowing as she caught the panic in my eyes. "My card. It's not here," I muttered, digging through pockets, my phone case, anything. I'd used it earlier by the pool, I knew that much. Then it hit me, sharp and cold. Derek. I'd left my bag unattended for 5 minutes when I'd gone to the bathroom that afternoon. He'd been right there, lounging like a damn vulture. Rachel paid the bill with her card, but the second we stepped outside, I yanked out my phone and opened my banking app. My blood boiled as the charges rolled in. $250 at the casino, $100 at the gift shop, $150 at the bar, and it was still climbing. "That son of a bitch," I growled, my hands shaking with rage. Rachel peeked over my shoulder and whistled. "He's spending like he hit the jackpot. What are you gonna do?" I didn't answer right away. I just marched straight to the ship's customer service desk, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. The woman behind the counter looked up, her face calm and professional. "How can I assist you, sir?" she asked. "My credit card was stolen," I said, keeping my voice steady even though I wanted to scream. "I need it canceled. Now." She nodded, typing away. "Do you know who took it?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. I grinned, a dark, bitter edge to it. "Oh yeah, another passenger, my brother Derek. I'd love for security to have a word with him." 5 minutes later, Rachel and I stood outside the casino, the clatter of chips and laughter spilling out into the hall. The air was thick with the tang of cigar smoke and the sharp tang of spilled liquor, a chaotic symphony that matched the storm brewing inside me. There he was, Derek, sprawled in a chair at a poker table, a half-empty mojito dangling from his hand, laughing so hard his shoulders shook. His dirty blonde hair was a mess, his shirt unbuttoned one too many notches, and that smug, careless grin I'd hated since we were kids was plastered across his face. Next to him was some woman I didn't recognize, a brunette with a sly, fox-like smile, her fingers deftly counting a stack of chips like she'd just hit a jackpot. She had sharp eyes, the kind that sized you up in a second, and a cheap gold necklace that glinted under the casino lights. I didn't know who she was, but the way she leaned close to Derek, whispering something that made him laugh harder, set my nerves on edge. I stepped forward, my boots silent against the plush carpet, and leaned in close behind him, so close I could smell the rum on his breath. "Having fun?" I said, my voice low and dangerous, each word dripping with the fury I'd been holding back for days. He turned, slow and sloppy, blinking at me like I was some annoying fly buzzing around his good time. Then that smirk crept back, lazy and infuriating. "Oh, hey, bro," he slurred, raising his glass in a mock toast. "Guess you're covering everything now, huh?" The anger coiled tighter in my chest, a hot, twisting knot that made my hands itch to grab him by the collar and shake some sense into him, but I forced a smirk of my own, sharp and cold, letting it cut through his bullshit. "That's funny," I said, pausing just long enough to watch his confidence flicker, "because I just reported it stolen." His face went pale, the cocky grin slipping away like water through his fingers, leaving nothing but wide-eyed panic in its wake. The glass in his hand trembled, ice clinking against the sides, and for a split second, I saw the little brother who'd once cried when I took his toy truck away, except this time, he wasn't getting it back. Before he could stammer out a word, 2 security officers stepped up behind him, their shadows looming over the table. The taller one, Marco, had a broad chest and a thick accent, maybe Dominican, maybe Puerto Rican, his face carved from stone but with a glint of amusement in his dark eyes. "Sir," he said, his tone flat and unyielding, "we need to speak with you about some fraudulent charges." The other guy, younger, with a buzz cut and a name tag that read Jason, just stood there, arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Derek's jaw dropped, his mouth working soundlessly, and I swear I could have watched that moment on repeat for hours, the sheer terror in his eyes a balm to every ounce of frustration he'd ever caused me. Rachel nudged me, her elbow digging into my ribs, her lips twitching with a grin she couldn't quite hide. "Look at him," she whispered, her voice laced with delight. "He's about to piss himself." I glanced at her. Her hazel eyes sparkled with mischief, her dark curls bouncing as she tilted her head toward the scene. She was loving this as much as I was, maybe more, and that made the whole thing sweeter. Derek's gaze darted between me and the officers, his brain clearly scrambling for an excuse. I didn't steal anything," he finally blurted, his voice cracking like a teenager caught sneaking out. He forced a laugh, high and nervous, and waved a hand at me. "It's my brother's card. We always cover for each other, right, bro?" That pleading look he shot me. It was the same one he'd used 100 times growing up, the one that always got Mom to swoop in and save him. But not this time. I folded my arms, letting the silence stretch out, heavy and suffocating. His eyes begged me to back him up, but all I felt was a cold, satisfying calm settling over me. Marco flipped open a small notepad, his pen hovering over the page. "We've reviewed the charges, sir," he said, his accent rolling over the words. "Since it's reported as theft, we have to follow protocol. You need to come with us." Derek's head whipped around, searching the casino for an escape, Mom and Dad, a friend, anyone to bail him out. But the room was just a blur of strangers, a balding guy in a Hawaiian shirt cheering at a slot machine, a couple of college girls giggling over cocktails, and that brunette woman, Tina, I'd later learn her name, slipping back into the crowd, her stack of chips clutched tight. She caught my eye for a second, smirked like she knew something I didn't, then vanished behind a row of blackjack tables. "Come on, man," Derek hissed, leaning toward me, his voice low and frantic. "This is a joke, right? Tell them it's a misunderstanding." I raised an eyebrow, my voice steady as steel. "A misunderstanding? Like how you've misunderstood that my wallet isn't yours for the past 20 years? His face flushed red, a mix of shame and desperation, but before he could argue, Marco's hand landed on his shoulder, firm and unyielding. Derek jolted up so fast his chair tipped back, his drink splashing across the poker table in a sticky mess of rum and ice. Wait, this is ridiculous," he yelped, his voice climbing higher with every word. "We're family." He spun to Rachel, his eyes wild. "Rachel, tell him. You're not going to let them take me, right?" She crossed her arms, her grin widening. "Oh, I think Jake's got this handled," she said, her tone so dry it could have started a fire. Then she looked at me, her eyes glinting. "Right, babe?" I tilted my head, pretending to mull it over, letting him squirm. "Well, that depends," I said slowly, watching the hope flicker in his eyes. "Are you going to magically pay back everything you spent?" His mouth opened, then closed, no answer ready. The truth hung there between us. He couldn't, and he wouldn't. Didn't think so, I said, and Marco nodded to Jason. They each grabbed one of Derek's arms, steering him toward the exit. "This is bullshit," he shouted, twisting in their grip, his voice echoing over the casino din. "Jake, you asshole, I'm your brother." I watched them drag him out, his protests fading down the hall, and a slow, wicked grin spread across my face. Rachel bumped my shoulder, laughing softly. "You're evil," she said, but there was pride in it. "He had it coming," I replied, and I meant every word. The pit boss, a wiry guy with a slick mustache and a name tag that said Tony, tapped me on the shoulder as the crowd thinned out. "Sir," he said, nodding toward the soggy poker table, "your brother cashed out some chips with your card before security got here. I assume you'd like them back?" He held out a stack, maybe $200 worth, still damp with rum. I took them, the weight of them solid in my hand, a small victory in the chaos. "Oh, absolutely," I said, and Tony gave me a knowing nod before heading back to his post. I turned to Rachel, holding up the chips. "First round's on Derek," I said, and she laughed, loud and unrestrained, the sound cutting through the casino noise like a lifeline. We didn't stick around to see where they took him. Not yet, anyway. Rachel and I wandered out to the deck, the night air cool against my skin after the stuffy heat of the casino. The stars were sharp above the black expanse of the Caribbean, and for a moment I let myself breathe, the tension in my shoulders easing just a fraction. "Think he'll talk his way out of it?" Rachel asked, leaning against the railing, her voice teasing. I snorted, shaking my head. "Not this time." Marco didn't look like the type to buy his sob story. She grinned, brushing a curl out of her face. "Good. I was getting tired of his poor me act." I leaned next to her, the chips clinking in my pocket, and for the first time since we'd boarded this damn ship, I felt like I'd won something. But Derek wasn't done, not by a long shot. About an hour later, I was halfway through a beer at the deck bar when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hey bro, it's me Derek. I got a friend to text you. They took me to some office clothes, come fix this." I stared at it, the buzz of victory souring into suspicion. "He's already working the angles," I muttered, showing Rachel the screen. She rolled her eyes, sipping her gin and tonic. "Pathetic. What's your move?" I didn't reply right away. Instead, I typed back, "Fix what? You stole my card? Deal with it." The response came fast. "Come on, man, don't be a dick. I didn't mean it like that. Just tell them it was a mistake." I laughed, short and bitter, and shoved the phone back in my pocket. "He's not getting off that easy," I said, and Rachel clinked her glass against my bottle. "Cheers to that." The next hour was quiet. Too quiet. I half expected Mom to storm up, her face pinched with that righteous anger she always pulled out when Derek screwed up, but nothing came, and that gnawed at me. "Something's off," I said, glancing at Rachel as we finished our drinks. "He's up to something." She shrugged, but her eyes narrowed, picking up on my unease. "Let's find out," she said, and we headed toward the guest services desk, figuring that's where they'd taken him. Sure enough, as we rounded the corner, I spotted a small crowd, Mom and Dad hovering near the counter, Mom's hands fluttering like she was about to cry, Dad staring at the floor like he wished it'd swallow him whole. And there was Derek, slumped in a chair, Marco standing over him with that same stone-cold expression. But there was someone else too, a girl, maybe 22, with platinum blonde hair and a phone in her hand, filming the whole thing like it was a reality show. She caught my eye and grinned, waving me over. "Hey, you're the brother, right?" she chirped, her voice bright and grating. "I'm Sophie. I'm live on TikTok. Your family drama's going viral." I froze, the words sinking in like a punch to the gut. "What?" I snapped, stepping closer. She turned the phone toward me, the screen flashing with comments. "OMG, this is wild. Get him, girl. Family vacations are the worst LOL." I felt a hot flush of anger crawl up my neck, but before I could grab the damn thing, Mom rushed over, her eyes red and frantic. "Jake, thank God you're here," she said, grabbing my arm. "They're saying Derek has to pay or work on the ship. You have to fix this." I pulled my arm free, my patience fraying thin. "Fix what, Mom? He stole from me." Her face crumpled, but she didn't back down. "He didn't mean it. He was just borrowing. You know how he is." Rachel stepped up beside me, her voice sharp. "Yeah, we do. That's why he's in this mess." Dad finally looked up, his gray eyes tired but steady. "What happened, Jake?" he asked, And for once, I didn't feel like he was just going along with Mom's script. I laid it out, the card, the charges, the casino, watching Mom's denial crack with every word. "He wouldn't do that," she whispered, but it sounded hollow even to her. Sophie zoomed in with her phone, narrating to her audience. "And now the mom's in denial. Classic twist, right, guys?" Derek lifted his head, his voice hoarse. "Jake, come on. Tell them it's a mix-up. I'll pay you back, I swear." I stared at him, the same old lie hanging in the air, and something snapped. "Like you've paid me back for the last 10 years?" I said, my voice rising. "No, Derek. You're done." Marco cleared his throat, stepping forward. "Sir, your balance is $1,500. Either you pay or you join the work program. 4 weeks, housekeeping or kitchen duty." Derek's eyes went wide, his whole body sagging. "4 weeks?" he croaked. Sophie gasped into her phone. "4 weeks on the ship! This is next-level drama!" I shot her a glare, but she just winked, undeterred. Mom grabbed my sleeve again, her voice trembling. "Jake, you can't let this happen. He's your brother." I shook her off, my anger boiling over. He stopped being my brother when he decided my money was his piggy bank. Dad put a hand on her shoulder, pulling her back. "Linda, enough," he said, quiet but firm, and she stared at him like he'd betrayed her. Derek looked at me, his face a mix of fear and defiance. "You're really gonna let them do this?" he asked, and for a second I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "You did this," I said, and turned away, Rachel's hand slipping into mine as we walked off, leaving him to his fate. Marco's words hit Derek like a sledgehammer. 4 weeks, housekeeping or kitchen duty. And I watched his face collapse, his cocky facade shattering into a mess of disbelief and dread. His hands shook, his shoulders slumped, and for a moment, he looked small, like the kid who'd once hidden behind me when the neighbor's dog barked too loud. But that kid was long gone, buried under years of entitlement and excuses, and all I felt now was a cold, hard satisfaction, sharp as a blade in my chest. Rachel's fingers tightened around mine, her nails biting into my skin, her breath catching as she fought back a laugh. Sophie, the TikToker with her damn phone, hopped around like a caffeinated squirrel, her blonde ponytail bouncing as she narrated to her live stream. 4 weeks on the ship, y'all. This is iconic. Team Jake or Team Derek, let me know in the chat. Her voice grated on my nerves, but I couldn't deny the twisted thrill of knowing Derek's humiliation was going viral. Mom clutched my arm, her grip desperate, her voice a trembling plea. "Jake, you can't let this happen. He's your brother." Her eyes were wet, her face a mask of practiced anguish, but I'd seen this act too many times to feel anything but irritation. I pulled free, the fabric of my sleeve slipping from her grasp, and turned to her, my patience worn to nothing. "He stopped being my brother when he decided my money was his to burn," I said, my words slow and deliberate, each one a nail in the coffin of her delusions. Dad stepped up, his hand heavy on her shoulder, pulling her back. "Linda, enough," he said, his voice low and firm, cutting through her theatrics like a quiet storm. She whirled on him, her mouth agape. "Carl, you can't mean that." But he just looked at me, his gray eyes steady, and I saw a flicker of something. Approval, maybe, or just exhaustion. It was the first time in years I felt like he was on my side. Derek shot to his feet, his chair screeching against the floor, his voice ragged with panic. "You're really gonna let them do this, Jake?" he demanded, his eyes wild, darting between me and Marco like a trapped animal. I held his gaze, unflinching, the weight of every unpaid debt, every smug, "I'll get you later," pressing down on me like a stone. "You did this," I said, my voice calm but final, a door slamming shut. Rachel's grip tightened, a silent cheer, and I turned away, pulling her with me as we walked off. Derek's shout chased us down the hall. "Mom! Dad! Do something!" But I didn't look back. Sophie's voice trailed after us, bright and relentless. "And there he goes, folks. Big bro's out. Stay tuned for the fallout." We didn't see him again that night. Rachel and I hit the deck bar, the cool breeze off the Caribbean washing away the last of my tension as we toasted with beer and gin. "To freedom," she said, her grin sharp and wicked, and I laughed, rough and real. "To Derek finally paying a price," I added, and we drank, the stars above us glinting like a promise. But I knew Derek. He'd never go down without a fight, even a pathetic one. The next morning, as I shoveled bacon onto my plate at the buffet, my phone buzzed. A text from him. "They mean it, bro. 4 weeks I can't do this. You gotta help." I snorted, showing Rachel. Still thinks you're his ATM, she said, popping a grape into her mouth. I typed back, "You stole my card. Enjoy the mop," and hit send, picturing his face twisting in that familiar mix of rage and self-pity. The rest of the cruise was a dream. No Derek, no guilt trips, just me and Rachel soaking up every second. We lounged by the pool, her head on my shoulder as the sun baked us dry, hit the spa where the hot stones melted my stress away, danced at the farewell party until my legs ached. I caught snippets from other passengers, some guy at the bar saying he'd seen that loudmouth hauling trash bags, a woman at the gym laughing about a new crew guy who'd slipped on a wet deck. I didn't need to see it to know it was Derek, and that was plenty. But Mom couldn't let it go. She ambushed me on the last day, her face tight with worry as I folded shirts into my suitcase. "He's suffering, Jake," she said, her voice quivering. "They've got him scrubbing floors." I zipped the bag shut, not bothering to look up. "Maybe he'll figure out how to earn his keep." She gasped, clutching her necklace like a lifeline. "How can you be so heartless?" I straightened, meeting her eyes, my voice cold and clear. "How can you keep pretending he's not a thief?" She flinched, but Dad appeared in the doorway before she could fire back. "Linda, we're leaving," he said, and she stormed out, leaving me with a nod from him, a rare, solid thing I tucked away. We stepped off the ship the next morning. Rachel's arm looped through mine, the sun hot on my neck and the air thick with salt and relief. I didn't think about Derek until 2 days later when my phone lit up with his whining. "Jake, you dick him in a closet, W2 smelly guys." Then, "I cleaned a toilet today, a fucking toilet." And, "No drinks, no casino, just work, I hate this." I read them over coffee, Rachel giggling beside me, her curls brushing my shoulder. "He's really laying it on thick," she said, and I grinned, typing nothing back. Let him drown in it. Mom called next, her voice a shrill buzz through the speaker. "He's begging to come home, Jake. They're working him to death." I leaned back, sipping my coffee slow and deliberate. "He's paying a debt, Mom. That's how it works." She huffed, indignant. "You could fix this. You've got the money." Rachel snorted, loud and unapologetic. "And he's got the balls to steal it," she said. I smiled, sharp and final. "He made his bed. He can sleep in it." I hung up as she sputtered, and Rachel high-fived me, her eyes gleaming. "You're a legend," she said, and I felt it, untouchable, weightless, victorious. The texts rolled in for weeks, each one a fresh stab at my patience. "Plus, bro, just half I swear he'll pay you." "This is hell, I smell like puke." "Some dude barfed on a deck and I had to scrub it, I hate you." I didn't answer, just saved them like medals, proof of his misery. 3 weeks in, he tried a new angle, a text from an unknown number. "Hey bro, it's Derek, I got a guy to cover me, but Ship says you gotta unfreeze the charges plus call." I laughed, showing Rachel. "He's desperate," she said, shaking her head. I typed back, "Who's this guy? If he's real, he'd pay the ship." Silence, then. "Just do it, man, I'm dying here." I blocked the number, grinning as I tossed the phone aside. "Nice try, dipshit," I said, and Rachel clinked her mug against mine, a toast to his failure. He worked the full 4 weeks, every grueling, soul-crushing day. Mom's calls tapered off, her voice weaker each time, Dad's silence louder. I didn't flinch. When he finally got off the ship, I didn't hear from him for weeks, and I didn't care, until the family barbecue rolled around. Rachel and I pulled up to Mom and Dad's place, the backyard humming with cicadas and the smell of charcoal thick in the air. I was cracking a beer when he shuffled in. Derek, gaunt and tanned, his eyes hollow, his usual strut replaced by a slow, defeated drag. He didn't look at me, just grabbed a plate and piled it with ribs, his hands trembling slightly. Mom hovered near him, whispering something soft and soothing, her face pinched with worry. Dad nodded at me from the grill, a quiet hello, and I nodded back, feeling the old rhythm of us settle in. I waited until he sat down, his fork spearing a rib, before I made my move. I'd brought a little something, a glossy brochure for a luxury Caribbean cruise, the exact ship he'd been chained to, its white hull gleaming on the cover. I slid it onto the table next to his plate, casual as if I'd dropped a napkin, and stepped back. Rachel saw it, her hand clapping over her mouth to stifle a laugh, her eyes dancing with mischief. Derek's gaze landed on it, and his whole body went rigid, his jaw tightened, his fork froze midair, a vein throbbing in his forehead. He looked up at me, slow and deliberate, and the raw, burning hate in his eyes was a thing of beauty. "You think this is funny?" he growled, his voice low and rough, cracked from weeks of shouting over mop buckets. I shrugged, grinning wide. Thought you might miss the place. Mom swooped in, her voice sharp and scolding. Jake, stop it! He's been through hell! But before I could answer, Derek slammed his fork down, the metal clanging against the plate, ribs sliding off in a greasy heap. Fuck this, he snarled, shoving his chair back so hard it tipped over, crashing onto the deck. He stood, his chest heaving, and for a second I thought he might swing at me, his fists clenched, his eyes wild, but he just turned and stormed off, the gate banging shut behind him. The yard went still, the only sounds the hiss of the grill and Rachel's choked laughter breaking free. Mom rounded on me, her face flushed. Was that necessary? She demanded, but her voice was tired, hollowed out. I met her eyes, calm and unyielding. Completely, I said, and Rachel let loose, her laugh loud and bright, slicing through the heavy air. Dad flipped a burger, a faint smile tugging at his lips, the first real one I'd seen from him in forever. He'll figure it out, he said, his voice gruff but sure, and I knew he meant it for me. Mom huffed, retreating to the kitchen with a muttered curse, and I sat down next to Rachel, her hand slipping into mine under the table. Best vacation ever? She asked, her eyes glinting with shared victory. I squeezed her fingers, the weight of it all, Derek's crash, my release, this perfect petty triumph, settling into something solid and mine. Best damn day, I said, and as the sun sank low, painting the yard gold, I felt the closure I'd fought for. Not just a win, but a line drawn deep in the sand. But it wasn't over. Not quite. A week later, my phone buzzed as I sprawled on the couch, Rachel's legs draped over mine while we binged some dumb reality show. A text from an unknown number. You think you won, but watch your back, bro. I stared at it, a slow grin spreading across my face. He's still kicking, I said, showing Rachel. She sat up, her eyes narrowing with delight. Oh, he's dumb enough to try something, she said, and I laughed, the sound rough and free. I didn't reply. Let him stew in whatever half-baked revenge he was cooking up. Maybe he'd show up with a scheme. Maybe he'd crash and burn again. Either way, I was ready. My life finally my own, untangled from his mess. Derek, though. He was still sinking, still clawing at the edges of a hole he'd never climb out of, and I'd be here, thriving, watching him flail. So here's the takeaway, folks. You can only push someone so far before they push back, and when they do, it's a hell of a show. I learned to cut the dead weight, to stop carrying people who'd rather drag me down than stand up. Derek learned, well, maybe he didn't learn shit, but he's feeling it now, and that's enough for me. What about you? Ever had to drop a leech like that? Hit me up in the comments, tell me your stories, your wins, your reckonings. Let's see who's got the best tale of cutting loose and coming out on top.